Good morning. We're on the record in case number 2023-00247, electronic application of Hardin County Water District Number 2 for a general adjustment of rates. My name is Kent Chandler. I'm chairman of the commission, and we'll be presiding over the hearing today. With me alongside our vice chair, Angie Hatton, and Commissioner Mary Pat Regan. I'd ask that anybody in the room, since we don't have anybody participating virtually, that everybody in the room please turn off their cell phones or please put them on silent. The purpose of our hearing today is to take evidence in this matter. Before we begin, we'll have an entry of appearance of counsel for the applicant, Hardin County Water District Number 2.
Damon Talley.
And I'm Emily Childress.
And for commission staff,
Jennifer Phil.
all right. And public notice for the hearing, evidence of public notice, proof of publication has been provided. Is that right, Mr. Talley?
Yes, it was published in the proof of publication was filed on December the 28th. It was published in the Hardin and LaRue County papers on December the 27th, and in the Hart County newspaper on December the 28th.
Okay. All right. Fits your 7-day and 21-day window there.
Yes, a little difficult during Christmas holidays, but we made it.
It's even more difficult with weeklies, all right?
Yes, yes.
All right. And Ms. Fell, are there any outstanding petitions or motions?
There are none, Chairman.
All right. There is no one here from the public today in order to provide public comments, and no one has indicated their interest pursuant to Hardin County Number 2's public notice that anybody interested in providing public comments can do so virtually. Nobody has taken up that option and followed the instructions on our website to provide those comments virtually or remotely. I just remind the public that public comments can be provided any time prior to submission of the case, and they can be provided either in writing. They can be provided in writing, either mailed to the commission at 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602, or emailed to the PSC at public.comment@ky.gov, and information on how to contact the PSC to provide public comment can be found at psc.ky.gov. All right, Mr. Talley, before we go to witnesses, is there anything else that we need to take up from the position of the applicant?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, you may call your first witness.
Hardin County Water District Number 2 calls Sean Urovich to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
Full name is Michael Sean Urovich. Address is 1951 West Park Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky 42701.
All right, Mr. Urovich, I'd ask, there's a microphone there. I know it's right in front of you.
Yes.
However loud do you think, you're going to think you're hollering, you're really not because of the box there. So however loud do you think you're talking, just increase about 50%.
Increase?
Increase.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Mr. Talley?
May I call you Sean?
Yes, please.
Tell us your job title.
General Manager.
How long have you been general manager?
Since spring of 2020.
How long have you worked for the water district?
I started with the Water District in January of 1992, so this month marks 32 years.
So you've worked continuously with the water district since 1992.
That's correct.
Tell us a little about your educational background.
I have a bachelor's degree from Western Kentucky University.
Do you have any professional certifications?
I do. I hold the 4D certification and a 4A treatment certification from Kentucky Division of Water.
Is that the highest certification for water and distribution?
It is, yes.
Briefly highlight some of your professional organizations and offices that you've held.
So I'm a member of Kentucky Rural Water, American Water Works Association, as well as the Kentucky Water Operators Association. I have served on the board as president for the Kentucky Water Operators Association, as well as numerous other positions. within the organization. Have also served on the board for the American Water Works Association on the Kentucky-Tennessee level. Currently serve as on the Water Utility Council for AWWA. Was also appointed in November of 2022 to the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority Board, serving for representing AWWA.
Did you prepare written testimony in this case?
I did, yes.
Do you have any changes or additions to your written testimony?
No.
If I were to ask you the same questions today that were in your written testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
I believe you're also a responsible witness for some of the data responses that the district filed.
Correct.
Did you file a revised response to one of those data requests back on December the 19th concerning the first data request, item 37, about non-recurring charges, cost justification sheets?
Yes, I did.
Tell us why you did that.
It was realized after the submittal that there were, I guess, basically the three of the sheets that justification sheets had incorrect totals. So just corrected the totals for those three individual sheets.
Subject to that revised attachment, if I were to ask you the same questions today for which you were the responsible witness on these data responses, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Now, since filing your written testimony, have you learned any new information about the health insurance benefits that are provided by or will be provided by other utilities or other businesses in Hardin County that might be of interest to us here today?
I have, yes.
Explain that, please.
Of course, I think everyone is aware of the Blue Oval SK facility that is locating in Hardin County, and conversations with a current employee who's in, I believe, a management position has made us aware of the benefits that they will provide, which includes full or health care for individual and family, which would be paid 100% by Blue Oval SK.
Now, at Blue Oval SK, that's the battery factor in Glendale,
That's correct.
and that's in Hardin County service area.
That is correct.
Can you describe the labor market in Elizabethtown and Hardin County?
Well, it's challenging to find quality applicants. I mean, the labor market is great in Hardin County. There's obviously, again, with the Blue Oval SK facility, Hardin County being ground zero, there's a lot of opportunities in Hardin County. So,
Would you describe, how would you describe the ability to hire workers right now because of the labor market?
well, it's difficult. It's challenging. You know, we want the best employees that we can obtain, but so does everyone else. And so it's a challenge to, again, just get people to come into the door for interviews. So.
Do you know how many people the Blue Oval SK BOSC is going to be hiring?
Well, through construction, our understanding is that, you know, there are about 3,000 people just for the construction of the facility. But for operations, we know that they're already hiring, and their goal, our understanding, is 5,000 employees.
Approximately what percentage of the cost of employees' health insurance costs are being paid by the district at this time?
On average, it's about 95%.
Is that for single coverage?
That's single and family combined.
Do you believe that the health insurance benefits being provided by the district are reasonable?
Yes.
Are you generally aware of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, national average of private employers' contributions to the cost of health insurance premiums for its employees?
I am, yes.
Are you aware from attending some of the water training seminars that you've attended, or any other way, that the PSC has been using the BLS national average for private employers as the benchmark for utilities for the past few years?
I am, yes.
And are you aware that the PSC's practice for the past few years, since Vice Chairman Cicero was on the commission, to use that number, which is approximately 78% of the employer's contribution rate for single and approximately 67% for family.
Yes.
Are you aware that if the PSC follows the BLS national average in this rate case, that a substantial portion of the district's cost of providing health insurance and other benefits to employees will not be included in our revenue requirement?
Yes.
What are your thoughts about using the BLS national average in this rate case?
Well, I feel like that, considering the unique situation we're in Hardin County, with Hardin County being ground zero for the largest investment in the history of the state, I don't feel like those numbers are practical or reasonable for our situation.
Let's assume that the district's board, let's assume that the PSC rules against the district.
Mr. Talley,
Yes, I'm sorry.
I think we're covering
Okay.
plowed ground here.
Okay.
I remember reading Mr. Yurovich's testimony. I think he's already discussed his positions on
Okay.
the use of the BLS data, and I don't know that hypotheticals are going to be helpful
Okay.
for purposes of direct examination.
Okay. One more question, if I may. Do you have an opinion whether the district should be able to fully recover its costs for providing health insurance and other benefits for its employees through its rates?
Yes, I do.
The witness is now available for cross-examination.
Phil?
Good morning. I'll
morning.
try my best to speak up as well. Let me know if at any point you can't hear me, or if I ask any questions you don't understand, I'll try to rephrase it. Firstly, the district not only provides water service to its customers, but wholesale water service, correct?
That's correct.
And who are the district's wholesale customers?
Hardin County Water District Number 1 is the only wholesale customer.
Okay. And I saw in Exhibit 6 to the application that the district did provide notice of this application to that wholesale customer. And a 31% increase to Hardin District Number 1 is reflected there. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. In your testimony at page 6, if you need to reference it, you had mentioned that the district was initially approached by Hardin District Number 1 a few years ago to provide wholesale water service, but that no written contract was ever entered into between the districts. Is that still the same? Is there any contract that exists?
There is no contract that exists. That's correct.
Okay, so no contract exists. However, to your knowledge, does the district's current tariff or any other contracts that are on file with the commission contain that wholesale rate?
No.
They do not. Okay. Who at the district is responsible for any annual filings, tariffs, or contracts with the commission?
That would be myself.
Okay. And to your knowledge, do you believe that wholesale rate would have been filed in any previous documentation with the commission, other than what we've seen here in this rate case?
Can you restate the question, please?
Just whether or not you believe that wholesale rate, I know you've already answered that you don't believe it's included in your tariff. Do you believe it would have been filed in any other previous documentation with the commission?
No.
Can you explain why that wholesale rate has not been included in the district's tariff?
Well, in the process of doing the rate study, in fact, I think it was right after we submitted the application is when it was brought to my attention that we did not have a wholesale rate in our tariff. The wholesale rate was always a separate sheet, and did not realize again until after we filed that our previous general manager had canceled that tariff.
I think Ms. Fell was asking, though, if they cancel a tariff, that means they filed a tariff. Do you know whether the tariff was ever filed to be canceled?
From what I've seen, all I've seen is the tariff, the old tariff, or the tariff that we did have. I've seen the sheet where it was canceled with the signatures on it. That's the only thing that I'm aware of.
Just curious if you're aware or not of the filed rate doctrine that's provided by statute in KRS 278160. that requires a schedule for all rates for service of a utility to be filed with the commission?
Yes.
Okay. And from your testimony and the record, it also appears that the district will be experiencing a substantial decrease in the amount of wholesale sales to Hardin District Number 1. It looks like they've completed some plant rehabilitation projects that will allow them to purchase much less from you. To your knowledge, is that the only factor that went into calculating the 31% increase to that wholesale rate? Were there any other considerations or factors that went into that calculation?
I am not 100% certain, and that I would defer to Vaughn Williams, who did the actual calculations.
Okay, thank you. So to your knowledge, is this the first general rate case that the district has filed with the commission?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And to your knowledge, has the district ever performed any previous cost of service study or rate analysis? Or is this the first time an independent study has been prepared analyzing the district's rates?
In my time as general manager, no, there has not been any other, but prior to that, I couldn't say for certain.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the application and at the schedule of adjusted operations, and council can pull it up for you if you need to refer to it. Just in general, the district is proposing a $37,500 increase to contractual services expense and states that the current rate study will cost over $75,000, and the district plans to conduct another study during 2025. Is this all familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. And therefore, it states the cost of the study was amortized over 2 years, or $37,500 per year. So can you confirm for us what amount is the cost of the actual rate study, the rate analysis that Ken Byron's did for you, or for the district, sorry, versus the amount of expense for the rate case?
Without looking at invoicing that we've received to date, I could not answer that.
Okay. I will point you to Exhibit 12A/B. And we'll be looking down at page 17 out of 17 of the invoices of that exhibit.
Okay, yes,
Do you have that in front of you?
yes.
Okay. On that invoice from Ken Byron's, it shows that Ken Byron's cost was approximately $37,500 for the rate analysis. Is that correct?
The number, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the number that you
The
quoted.
$37,500 approximately.
On
What is it?
the one that's in front of me is 26,000.
Okay, sorry, that's my mistake. Yes, 26,000. And then up above that, the rest of the invoices that were provided as that exhibit, there's 16 pages worth of legal expense, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So to your knowledge, is the district planning on filing another rate case in 2 years? Or does it just plan to prepare a rate study at that time?
I believe the intent is to do a rate case, to file a rate case.
Actual rate case?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something that has been discussed amongst the board and actually voted on, or is it just tentative?
Just tentative. It was just discussion, nothing voted on.
Okay. We're going to switch gears for just a second to water loss. In 2020, the district's annual report stated that the district, or staff calculated that the district used approximately 5% of its water for internal system usage, and reported a water loss for the year of about 13.7%. Then we switched to 2021 and 2022. In both of those years, staff calculated the district used approximately 12% for internal system use, but reported water loss of 13.6% and 14% respectively. I realize that's for you, subject to check on all those numbers. Just wondering if you could explain for us what is driving the increase in internal system usage for the district?
Sure. It's basically system flushing. We have revamped our water quality department and have put much greater effort into water quality throughout the system. And so we're doing considerably more flushing. In addition, we're doing a much better job of tracking water use for internal use throughout the system.
What has been implemented that is helping you better track the usage?
We have software now, field map software that all of our field personnel have with them on a tablet. And so they're able to input data out in the field as they experience the use.
As a first post-hearing data request, because we don't have them on file, if we could ask the district to provide flushing reports for the past 5 years,
Yes.
and we will document those in post-hearing filing. And does the district have any further plans to lower its system use?
To lower system use?
Yes.
I mean, we have plans, continuous plans to reduce water loss, yes.
Okay. Can you detail any of those for us?
Mainly, actually, in the past couple of months, we've refocused some of our staff to do continuous leak monitoring. We've also are implementing, and these are things that we've done in the past, but we get to a point where water loss is reduced to a certain point, and then when we start to see it creep up again, then we'll refocus our efforts again. So we're at that point where we are sending staff out daily, doing leak detection services. We also are planning valving techniques to be done after hours or late evenings. And then we're looking at alternate technology that we don't currently have as well.
Before you go on, Ms. Belt, would you like to take a short break, Mr. Ty?
I'm fine now, thank you though.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. As part of this application, the district is requesting over $900,000 and a 22% increase to employee salary and wages expense compared to the test year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to us what comprises the increase to wages and how they are approved by the district?
Sure. The increases are done typically annually. We do a cost of living increase, and then we also do a merit increase, which is based on an employee's evaluation. That is typically done in July of each year. This past year, we also did an adjustment in January of 23, and that is all taken to the board for their approval.
The cost of living adjustment and the merit increase, are they two totally separate increases, or are they lumped together when you do the annual increase each year?
Well, they're calculated separately, obviously, but they are lumped together at the annual increase.
And how does the district's board of commissioners determine a request for a wage increase is appropriate and ensure that the increases are financially feasible for the district?
Well, it's brought to the total amount of the increase overall, and the effects that it would have on the district is brought to them for their review. And, they look at it at typically the June board meeting.
Okay. In some of the responses, it's response to Commission staff's first request for information, number 28. The district responded that an informal wage study had been performed, but no formal wage study had been performed, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I could not find it. I'm not sure if it had been filed separately with a different exhibit, but I did not see where that study was actually provided to the commission. As a post-hearing data request, I would ask that you provide a copy of that informal study,
Okay.
as well as any sources that were relied upon to formulate that study.
Okay.
And can you explain to the commission what the considerations were that went into the determination of the wage increases requested?
Well, I think it's just a matter of looking at other utilities, looking at other industry within Hardin County, and then certainly the consideration of what the Blue Oval SK facility will bring to Hardin County.
Are there any other particulars that were considered or discussed amongst the board as far as the wage increases?
Well, the typical cost of living increase that, of course, everyone has experienced.
And can you explain the district's thoughts going forward into the approval of increased wages as to how the district will pay for those increased wages?
I'm sorry, can you ask again?
Sure. Can you explain the district's thoughts, the board's thoughts on going forward into approval of these increased wages that are proposed here, as well as further increased wages, as to how the district will feasibly pay for those increased wages?
Well, I assume that it would be considered, we would look at our total expenses versus what our revenue is, and then, adjust revenue requirements as necessary.
Okay. And in response to commission staff's first request, number 1C, the district provided board minutes up through 2022. Firstly, I'll just go ahead and put on the record a post-hearing data request to provide us with the board's 2023 minutes. We do not have those currently.
Okay.
But could you explain for us how the cost of living adjustment that's approved by the board annually is calculated? Or what publications or data you utilize to determine that cost of living increase?
Sure, I think there's, the main thing is just a typical inflation index is used to help make that decision.
Are there any specific numbers, any reports you're looking at? Mr. Talley mentioned the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Anything like that that the board is utilizing?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the national data that is provided.
And when you say national data, where's that data coming from?
I'd have to check to see what reference was actually referenced. I can't think of what I'm trying to think, or what I'm trying to say. I can't think of what that is. I'm sorry.
Sure. Was there a report that the board looked at, reviewed, relied on?
I don't think there was a specific report provided to them, no.
Did you rely on a specific report?
Just data that was collected over internet.
Okay. And would you still have a copy of that data that you relied on?
I have the numbers, yes.
Okay. As a post-hearing data request, I'd also ask that you provide a copy of any sources that you relied on to determine the cost of living increase. And can you explain whether the increase, let's go with the cost of living increase first, was determined as a flat rate for all employees, or do different positions receive different levels of increases?
It was a flat rate.
And do you recall, let's just say for 2022, what that flat rate was for the cost of living adjustment?
Without looking at it, no. Off the top of my head, I do not.
As a post-hearing data request, I would ask that you provide that for the past. Okay, since 2000, sorry, 2020. Ask if you could provide us that flat rate that was utilized for the cost of living adjustments.
Okay.
So as far as the merit matrix adjustments, are those determined on a flat rate or is it by position?
It's by, I don't want to say position, but it's by each individual as far as an evaluation conducted for each individual.
And you said that at the end of 2022, there was a separate wage increase that occurred, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what was that based on?
I believe that was an adjustment just to kind of bring us up to what was necessary in Hardin County to be competitive.
And was there any type of study? Would that have been the study that was also presented in this rate case, or did you do any additional or previous wage study at that time to reach those results?
No, there wasn't a specific, I'd have to look to see, I'm not sure if I'm confusing the annual with the mid evaluation, so I would have to look.
Okay.
So let's take a short recess. We need to fix our cameras. They're not automatically connecting. So we'll just take a recess until 5 till. We can recess until 5:55.
Thank you.
If you could refer to the application exhibit 8, it's page 2 of that exhibit, and it's reference A. Under description and explanation of proposed adjustment, it includes that raises realized during 2022 and 2023 and changes to the employee roster were included there. Can you describe for us the changes to the employee roster since the test year, outside of wage increases that have resulted in the proposal for increase in pro forma wages?
Yes, it's the number of employees that we have on staff increased from 22 or 23 to present.
So those occurred during 2023.
Yes.
And do you know how many employees were added?
We had several vacancies throughout 22 and 23 that mainly through 22. I think on average it was probably about three to four positions.
And were those vacancies that were just filled, or were they additional positions that were created?
Vacancies that have been filled.
As a post-hearing data request, if you could provide an explanation as to what positions were vacant or that were possibly added or deleted from the employee roster, what changes have been made that have resulted in the request for the increase?
Okay.
And going back quickly to the wholesale water sale issue, the cost of service study that was provided in this proceeding happens to actually include LaRue County as a wholesale customer in one of the tables of that cost of service study. That is application exhibit 19, and we're looking at page 28 of 28. It's actually listed. It lists a rate, but then it lists 0 gallons actually sold. Just trying to figure out why they were included there.
Well, we have not sold them water, but they have inquired about future purchases.
Has any contract been entered into with LaRue County to provide wholesale water?
No.
Chairman and staff have no further questions at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Yurevich, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And I recognize that there's a drill somewhere very near you over in that area, and also the glass around you, so please let me know if you can't hear me.
Okay.
So I was looking at your rate increase request.
Yes.
It's about 2.3 million, and of that, almost 1 million is salaries. So I need to get a little better idea of what all this salary increase is about. Are all of the $985,000 or so of salary increases since the test year of 2022?
I'm not certain. I would have to look at I'm not sure that I can answer that.
Is there somebody here today that can answer better?
I would defer that to Vaughn since he put those numbers in the study.
Mr. Vaughn would have more specifics about salary increases.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, yes, I mean, I can discuss the increases themselves or why the point or purpose of the increase, but
Okay.
how it was included in the study, I would defer to Vaughn.
All right. So I'll just ask you general questions then. Could you sort of describe the breakdown? Was it like for a new hire, are they getting $1 an hour raise, or what was the general thinking and how this
Yeah,
worked?
We did an adjustment basically across the board, and again, it was, the purpose was we needed to compete with the surrounding, businesses, more specifically Blue Oval, SK, we needed to get the salaries up to where we could attract individuals and retain quality employees. So the adjustments were done across the board. There was a greater emphasis on increasing rates at the lower end, newer employees, to try to get them up to what we called the market range, closer to market range. So the adjustments were heavier on the newer, less tenure employees than it was on the upper.
And you said you couldn't point to the specific market range study. Do you have access to that somewhere else? If you don't remember what market study, is there someone else who would remember?
No, when I say market study, I mean, it's basically, you know, we looked at what other companies were doing locally, and we were just trying to compare our rates to what other utilities, other companies within Hardin County were paying.
So I haven't been living under a rock, and I think you'd have to be to not know that big things are happening in Hardin County real
Right.
soon. Are you having employee retention issues already?
We were, yes. In fact, in 2022, our turnover, we had 17 employees that we lost in 2022. We made the adjustments again at the beginning of '23, and for 2023, we've had 6 people or employees that were left. Out of that 6, 1 retired, 1 resigned, 4 were terminated. Out of 2022, there were 1 retired, and then I think there were about 10 that left because of, most of them were because of wages.
Hardin County, Elizabethtown, the whole area very likely is growing in population and a lot of
Yes.
population. If there's 5,000 employees, a lot of those are going to bring families with them. What concerns do you have for capacity?
Well, obviously, we have looked at that, and we've done, you know, kind of a study of what our future demands, we expect our future demands to be. And that's why we have a contract with Louisville Water, and in 2022, we did a second contract with Louisville Water to increase our capacity. So they have a specific date that they have to increase the amount of water that they can provide to us. And that was the intent of that second contract, was to hopefully, have enough source water to handle future demands.
And what's that date?
There was 2 dates in the contract. Currently, they have the ability to provide up to 5 million gallons per day to us through the wholesale connection. We're limited on our side with the ability to pump only about 3 million. But we have a project in place where we will be able to take the full 5 million. That project is under design and will be out to bid soon. The new contract that we did in 2022, I think increases the volume from then to 7 million by 2027. And then I believe it's 2029, subject to check, but I believe it's 2029 that will go to 11 million.
So you're expecting you're going to need 11 million gallons capacity
Yes.
and currently have 3.
Currently have, from that single connection, we have 5 available to us, yes.
But did you say you could only pump 3
But we can
million?
only pump 3, that's correct.
Okay. But we'll see more details about that in a project
Yes,
you're going to submit soon for
yes,
bids. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, good morning.
Good morning.
In 2022, when you did this test year, Blue Oval SK hadn't broken ground yet, correct?
Uh,
Think they were just ramping up?
I think you're correct. I'm not positive on the dates when they broke ground.
Okay, and then through 2026, they need about 3,000 new people, and through 2027, I think they're gonna bump up to 5,000, correct?
Yes.
Is that your biggest competitor, or is KCTCS a competitor for your employees?
I think that there are many facilities, many companies within Hardin County and surrounding that are our competitors. I mean, and the thing is, all of them are going to be competing with Blue Oval as well. So it's just, everyone is making changes to accommodate and to attract those employees, new employees, and to retain. So to answer your question, I think there's multiple entities around us that are
And
competitors.
you're all pulling from the same base of people. I'm assuming that as the area grows, there's gonna be more housing, schools, roads, all of that. And do you feel confident that you can meet those requirements as they build out?
Yes. And again, that was the purpose of the contract with Louisville Water to expand our source. Yes.
I'm assuming that paying for health insurance for the employees is probably one of the most asked about when you're looking at hiring new people. Am I correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
A couple questions for you. You said you think you have a canceled tariff page with a rate for Hardin District number 1.
We have a canceled tariff page for a wholesale rate,
That's what I
not
wanna be-
specific to District 1.
Well, that's what I want to be very careful about. I can find a 2016 canceled wholesale rate for the city of Elizabethtown.
Yes, that's the one that I'm referring to.
Okay. But is the city of Elizabethtown synonymous with Hardin District number 1?
No.
Okay. And you would agree that the page you're talking about, the cancel page you're talking about says wholesale, well, I'll read it to you. You tell me if you remember this differently, but wholesale rate for city of Elizabethtown is what the tariff says. Is that your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of a tariff page? Because I've gone back in the middle of this hearing since 1983 to all the canceled tariff pages. Some gentleman named C.B. DeWitt signed back in 1967. Some of these were canceled in 1985 here. These are from the 60s and 70s. I can't find a canceled page that says Hardin County number 1. Do you have memory of a tariff page that's canceled that would be a wholesale rate for Hardin County number 1?
Specific to Hardin County number 1, no.
Well, do you believe the other one is specific to the city of Elizabethtown?
Based on the way it states, yes.
Okay. So even that one, the last one I found, was for $2.2935 per 1,000 gallons. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. But the wholesale rate that you guys are charging right now is not 2.2935, is it?
No.
It's 2.20, right?
Correct.
Where did y'all get $2.20 from to start charging Hardin County, or to keep charging Hardin County number 1?
Sure. That was something else that was brought out during this rate study, was that the $2.20 that we are charging as a wholesale rate to District 1 was not the wholesale rate that we had in our tariff. After some research, found a letter from a previous general manager setting that rate at $2.20, and at that time, which I think was back 2018, provided a letter to District 1 stating that the rate was $2.20. How he came up with the rate, I have no idea.
So let me just be clear. You all don't even have an agreement with him. You have just a message to him saying, this is what we're going to charge you all for water. Is that right?
Correct.
And it's less than the rate you used to charge Elizabethtown.
Correct.
Okay. And there's not a wholesale rate for Elizabethtown now, right?
Correct.
And why is that?
Because it was, well, for two reasons. One, it was canceled, but the other is that we own We acquired the City of Elizabethtown system.
Right. And you all still have some tariffs that say like applicable to service area of Elizabethtown. Do you remember those tariffs? Have you ever seen those?
No, I'm not
Service,
familiar with them.
Elizabethtown service area? Let's go. All right. Now is that Mr. Jeffries?
Correct.
Okay, so do you have that communication?
We do, yes.
All right, so I'd like that communication, setting it, well, not setting it, but just telling Hardin County number one that Hardin County number two is just gonna start charging them $220. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, we'll ask for that. All right, let's talk about water loss for a second.
Okay.
Would you agree there's a difference between, a technical difference, and if you don't have an appreciation for it, that's fine, but there's a technical difference between non-revenue water and water loss?
Yes.
Okay, and that, do you talk about water loss broadly to encompass non-revenue water? Like, does water loss, do you also envision water for system use?
No, to us, water loss is just water that's unaccounted for.
Okay. Unaccounted for water, that's great. Okay, so I've got your all's 2022 annual report. And for water loss, you'll have 481,000 gallons of water loss, which is a 14% water loss rate. Separate from that, you all use 114,000 gallons in 2022 for system flushing and 244,000 gallons for utility water treatment plant. Right, it's just like that through the process of making sure the water is potable to put out into the system, right?
Correct.
We have I guess I'm kind of thrown off by your response earlier to staff council where you were talking about how in 2022 you all sort of built on progress in 2020 and 2021. You feel more comfortable where you all are on water loss. Are you aware that 476,000 out of the 481,000 gallons of water loss you all have is not characterized? It's just called miscellaneous loss or other.
Without that in front of me,
Well, so the categories are line breaks, tank overflows, line breaks, line leaks, excavation damages, theft. You have 0 for theft in there. And the rest just says other loss explained, and it just says miscellaneous loss. How is it that, I mean, why is it that such a large amount of your all's loss is unexplainable?
honestly, I would have to get back with you on that and look
Okay.
into that to give you a definite.
Well, I'm just
answer.
curious, I mean, per your answer, you sort of answered like you all feel like you have a handle on your loss, water loss in 2022 and in 2023. But the numbers would indicate that it's not, at least not a handle enough to characterize it theft, breaks. I'm just curious, would you, let me ask you this way. Do you have an appreciation for the makeup of your all's water loss? Like rough, like we think 10% is this, we think about half of it's, theft. I don't know, I'm making up numbers here, but do you have a handle on what you think is the cause of your water loss?
I would say the majority of it, yes. I mean, it's basically due to leaks or that occur either through line leaks or damage.
Okay, but if it's line leaks or damages, would you agree that in these forms, it should indicate that they're the result of line leaks and damages?
Yes, and then, maybe it's just mischaracterized, I guess.
Okay. But I mean, it's helpful to fix the problem if you can identify the specific problem as opposed to just calling it, well, just it's loss. It's general loss. It's hard to come up with a solution for something if you don't know the definitive problem, right?
Correct.
Okay. How many vacancies do you all have now?
We have one.
You mentioned that of the 6 this year, one of them was due to retirement, and then you kind of talked about the other 5 a little bit. You had 16 leave last year?
17 in 2022.
How many of those were to take? When people leave, do you all have conversations with them, or discussions with them, either HR or you individually or their direct managers, about why they're taking another job?
We do, yes.
Okay. How many of those 17 do you know indicated that they're taking another job because they're being paid for it?
There was 10 that resigned in that year, and there was probably about 6 to 7 that left because of higher wage or benefits. Mainly higher wage.
Okay. So a third, effectively.
Yes.
Something between a third and a half left because of wages.
Yes.
The other reasons that people left, have you all taken efforts to address those?
Well, the other reasons were shift work. So we had treatment operators who are on, they just,
You got to have somebody at the plant, is what you're
you
saying.
gotta have somebody at the plant, and they just didn't like the second or third shift, so they left where they could do other shifts.
And then you're going to give us something, I think, as a posterior data request on how you came up with what you all envisioned to be a market range, right?
Yes.
You understand? Okay. So earlier, Mr. Talley was asking you about the compensation at Blue Oval, and I just want to make sure I'm clear about how you've come across that information. Can you tell me again, how is it you've come to understand the compensation that is proposed to be provided at Blue Oval SK?
Some of it is through conversations with current employees. Other parts of it is actually listed on their website.
Okay, and that's what I want to be clear about. When you were answering Mr. Talley, it sounded like it was secondhand information. You're telling me that when you did this market range and when you all determined to do the wage increases last year, it was based off of that first-hand knowledge about what Blue Oval SK was providing?
It was based on, at that point, it was based on what we heard from individuals who were representatives of Ford at the time.
Okay, let me ask you this one. As a posting data request, I'm going to ask you for documentary evidence of the wage and compensation there that leads you to indicate your position on employee versus employer pay for healthcare. Okay. Because it's your testimony that they're paying 100% of health insurance.
Yes.
Okay. And you think there's something there's a website out there that says that?
Not on the benefits, no.
That's what I'm trying to get to. So you take a lot of issue with the BLS and all this, but all that is secondhand. There's nobody here today that told you that I can ask questions of how they came up with the information that Blue Oval SK is paying 100% of health insurance. Is that right?
Nobody here representing Blue Oval, no.
No, not representing Blue Oval, but you were saying you came about that information because somebody told you about it.
Correct.
But there's nobody the person that told you about it's not here, so I can ask them about it.
That's correct.
Is Toyota have a plant, or is it Ford that's pulling from the same employee base? Are you competing with, is it Toyota or Ford opened a facility too?
I'm not, as far, the one that I'm aware of that we've been talking about is Blue Oval SK, which is Ford.
Which is Ford.
Ford.
But then isn't there another one as well that opened, that's gonna be doing EV batteries, that's gonna pull from that same group of employee base?
There is a EV plant under construction in Bowling Green at the
Oh,
present
okay.
time, yes.
Thank you.
All right. You became manager in 18?
20.
20, excuse me. Okay. Are you generally aware of the end of year position, like just profit, loss, net income, whatever, directionally of the end of year position of Hardin County number 2 in 2021 and 22? Well, let me ask you that. Are you aware that generally Hardin County number 2 had positive net income in 2020 and 2021.
Yes,
Okay, and then in 2018 and 2019 even, tell me if you're not aware, but the net income that we have from the annual reports, the audited reports, is that you all, on a net income basis, not on a cash basis, ended those years up 1.2 million and 1.8 million. Does that sound about right? Positive net income?
yes,
And then 2020, 660,000, 425,000. And then in 2022, it's almost a $4 million swing that you went from being a positive net income of 425,000 to a negative net income of $3.476 million. Is that right? Does that sound about right?
yes,
Round to the nearest few hundred thousand, but, and then that audited 2020 is the test year in this case, right?
2022.
22,
I keep saying 2020. I'm sorry. 2022 is the test year in this case, right?
yes,
Okay. So you've got a $4 million swing in net income, or a $3.9 million swing in net income. And on top of that, since 2022, there's more than $900,000 of wage and salary expenses that were not incurred in that time period, but either are being incurred or are proposed to be incurred as a pro forma adjustment to 2022. So had you all incurred that in 2022, that would have been close to a $5 million swing in net income, right? What happened between 2021 and 2022 in terms of expenses or revenues that resulted in an almost $3.9 million net income swing?
I don't know that I could sit here and say specifically without actually going back and reviewing the data.
Okay. Well, can you give me, do you have anything that contributed to that that's material? Because that's a big swing. And I don't think it's based on depreciation changes. Because your cash basis income changed by about the same, positive 1.6 to negative 2.3. So again, that's $3.94 million. So if it was a new project, massive capital project that you had a whole lot more depreciation expense, it wouldn't have, my understanding, it wouldn't have shown up in the cash basis. Or it would just be the net income, it wouldn't be the cash, but they're about the same difference. So there's a contribution there of revenue and expenses that have changed at almost $4 million in 1 year. Do you have anything that can explain that big of a swing in a single year?
I think part of it may be from investment.
Well, but if you invested it, again, investments are capitalized, right? So they wouldn't have been an expense for net income basis. Is that right?
Correct.
Unless you expensed investments, and it would be, but then they're not necessarily investments. Anything, like, did y'all have a storm or, I don't know, a cost that came in that year that should have been in 2021, but you didn't get the invoice till 2022, like a big construction? Is there anything that you can give me a heads up on that would explain any portion of that $4 million swing?
Well, the construction of our service, our new customer service center is the thing that comes to mind.
Okay, and would you all have capitalized that?
We did.
Okay, so I have that your all's total sales is $14.6 million. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's what I have for 2022 for total sales of water. We'll just stick with water, I mean. And in 2021, you just give me a second, Shurovich. your total sales of water was 13.8 million. So your revenue went up between 21 and 22. So nothing comes to mind in terms of an expense that was incurred in that year that would explain a $4 million swing in net income?
Again, without looking at, without reviewing, nothing comes to mind at the moment. The increase in revenue, of course, was in 2022 was from the wholesales to District 1.
Okay. So one of the questions I have is about interest and dividend income. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
So the biggest change I found in your annual report is that interest and dividend income went from being $249,000 to negative $2.3 million. What is that?
It's money we had in investments that we pulled out of the market. So there was a loss that year from, which I know someone else can explain that better than I can, but it was a loss from funds that we pulled out of the market, and then those have been since reinvested into CDs.
A principal loss?
Yes. But over the term of the investments, there was still a gain in investment. It was just for that year.
Okay. But interest and dividend income is the actual income received from a particular item, not necessarily moving something from a savings account to a checking account, right? You all are saying that you had a $2.3 million cash loss that year from pulling something out of an investment in one place and putting it into an investment in another place.
If I understood it correctly.
Okay. Well, let me just ask, I guess the obvious question, do you expect that cash loss to be there? Your all's books for 2023 are closed, or soon to be closed, January 11th, for 2023, right?
Yes.
I know they're not audited yet. There's
Right.
no auditor in the world gets their audit. Nobody closes their books and gets their audit done in 11 days. But you all have a good idea of where your numbers are for 2023. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you all expect a $2.3 million loss for interest and dividend income in 2023?
No.
So those are. Oh, the other. If I have additional questions about that, like more detail, is there another witness today that can
Yes.
answer questions? And then last, let me add a general question. If you want to push to somebody else, if it gets too weedy in the accounting, let me know. The $75,000 cost of the rate study.
Okay.
Okay, it's being split up. You're seeking half recovery in this case. Are you looking for cost recovery of a rate study you've done, or are you looking to embed in your rates the cost of a future study that you expect to do, or an ongoing study that you expect to do?
Well, if I understood correctly, I think we're asking to recover the cost of this study here.
Okay. You're just looking to be made whole for
Yes.
this study here,
Yes,
not necessarily including an amount for half of a study so that you can do a study every 2 years.
correct.
Okay. You, uh, you all have hired Ken Virens for this case?
Yes,
Mr. Talley's working on this case?
correct.
Both of those people like to get paid. I assume there's an expense associated with those. Do you all anticipate seeking recovery of those, in this case, those expenses for bringing this case?
Yes,
Okay. In your understanding, is the legal expense, the rate case expense, is that synonymous with or effectively the same in your eyes as this rate study?
yes,
That it's part of this case, not necessarily something you all plan to do on a recurring basis in the future?
correct.
Okay. Mr. Talley, we'll take a short recess and give you time to have a discussion with the witness before we come for redirect.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we will be in recess until, let's take a short, let's go to 10:45. Be in recess till 10:45.
just have one question.
Hold on one second.
I'm sorry.
We're back on the record, case number 2023-00247. Mr. Talley, you have your redirect?
Just one. Mr. Yurvich, during the, Sean, during the break, did you have a chance to think about what cost of living index or adjustment or that the commissioners might have used in making those raises at the end of 2022?
I did, and it is the social security numbers that were used along with the annual CPI.
That's all.
Is there anything else, Council?
Only one follow-up question. I know Chairman had asked you if there was any communication with Hardin District Number 1 regarding the $2.20-something cents rate that's currently in effect. Would there be any communication, any actual documentation of the start date or when you actually began providing wholesale service to Hardin District Number 1?
Yes.
Do you know the date off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, I think 2018 when they started, I couldn't tell you specifically what day in 2018, but that's when they started more on a consistent basis.
I know there's no formal contract that was entered into, but would there be some type of written communication between someone at the district and someone at Hardin District Number 1 to evidence that, the start date?
Not that I'm aware of. The only thing that we would have is, meter numbers as far as flow data.
As a post-hearing data request, I would ask to provide any documentation to evidence the start date for the provision of wholesale water service to Hardin District Number 1.
Okay.
That's all, Chairman.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Talley?
No.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Yurvich.
Thank you.
Mr. Talley, would you like to call your next witness?
Yes, Vaughn Williams.
Please raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
Please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Vaughn Williams. Business is 770 Wilkinson Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky.
Mr. Talley?
May I call you Vaughn?
Yes, sir.
Tell us briefly your educational background.
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Kentucky,
What year?
1990.
1990?
Yes, sir.
And are you a professional engineer?
Yes, sir.
How long?
Been a registered professional engineer in the state of Kentucky since 1994.
What's your current position with Ken Virons?
I'm the president of
And about,
Kentucky. President
and about how long?
since 2012.
Have you worked for Ken Virons, primarily Ken Virons, since you got out of college?
Yes, sir.
About how long have you worked with Hardin County Water District Number 2?
Since 1990.
Always a project or two to do,
Yes, sir.
isn't there? Do you attend the district board meetings on a frequent basis?
Yes.
Typically, are there always some kind of infrastructure improvement project going on down there?
Always infrastructure improvements going on.
Are you generally familiar with the water treatment plants of the district, their transmission and distribution system, water storage tanks, and other operational features?
Yes, sir.
Have you formed a hydraulic model for the district?
Yes, sir.
What is your role with respect to this rate case?
I was the preparer for the rate analysis.
Now, I'm sure that you didn't learn how to do a rate study or a cost of service study while you were at UK, did you?
No, sir.
Certainly not for water district. How did you acquire the ability to do the rate study and the cost of service study that you performed in this case?
So my mentor was Carlos Miller, who used to be the engineer for the water district and past president of Ken Virons. Carlos kind of got me under his wing and showed me how to do the rate studies. Carlos's background, he actually was an engineer for the Public Service Commission and came up with the kind of the inch mile methodology back in the day. So
And you follow that same?
same, yes, and along with rural development,
Okay.
they have requirements there.
In preparing your rate study, did you have occasion to look at the rate studies or cost of service studies in particular that other rate consultants have done?
Yes, sir. As a matter of, we modeled this particular rate study off of the ones that Kentucky Rural Water has conducted here recently, Alan Levine's.
Alan Valines?
Yes. And, specifically kind of looked at Green River Valleys and Wood Creek Water Districts.
Did you prepare written testimony in this case?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any changes or additions to your written testimony?
No, sir.
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same as in your written testimony?
For the most part, you say a lot of things in these testimonies, so I'll try to stay as close as I can to it.
Are you the responsible witness for some of the data requests that the district has answered?
Say that again?
Are you the responsible witness for some of the district's responses
Yes.
to the PSC's data request?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or additions to the answers that you gave on those particular responses?
No.
If I were to ask you the same questions today for which you were the responsible witness for the district's responses to the PSC staff's data request, would your answers be the same today as in your written responses?
Yes, sir.
Witness is now available for cross-examination.
Hi. Again, if you can't hear me, please just let me know. I'll do
I'll
my
try.
best over here. And if you don't understand any questions that I ask, please just let me know.
Okay.
Just a few questions for you, Mr. Williams. Firstly, on page 6 of your testimony, you stated that you performed a billing analysis as part of the rate study. Just curious, did you also perform a cost of service study as part of the rate study?
Yes.
Okay. And on page 4 of your testimony, you stated that the proposed rates were developed by allocating the cost of service to each customer classification. Could you explain the allocation in a little more detail for us?
So the allocation to the wholesale or the retail?
Let's start with the retail, yes.
Okay. Well, once we get all the revenues and expenses kind of categorized, we calculated up allocation factors, and I guess in the rate study, tables G1 and G2 is where we're actually applying those allocation factors to all of the expenses that the water district has, and based on those allocation factors, attribute them out from the wholesale to the retail.
And to your knowledge, are there only 2 customer classes involved here?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
The water district they don't make a distinction with their rates for like commercial, residential, industrial. They have just one rate structure and a wholesale rate.
Okay, thank
Well.
you. And having performed this analysis, in your opinion, are any customer classes subsidizing another class based on Hardin District Number 2's proposed rate increase?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If you could explain for us the difference between a rate study and a cost of service study, or what parts of the rate study you actually consider to be the cost of service
So the
study?
cost of, well, at least the distinction I make, when you get into a cost of service study, you're actually going to the different classes, the wholesale and the retail, and allocating those costs to each one of them. Just a general rate study, And we can do a rate study with just the front page there, where we come down at the bottom and say, it's, 15.68%. We're just gonna apply that uniformly to their existing rate structure and be done with the whole situation. So it's a lot less, a rate study, in my mind, is a lot less complicated. When you start getting into the cost of service study, where you start allocating the actual cost to the different classes of customers, it gets much more detailed.
Thank you, Chairman. No further questions from staff at this point.
Mr. Talley, you have any redirect for Mr. Williams?
No, I don't think so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. You may be excused. Mr. Talley?
We'll call our chairman, Michael L. Bell.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
Michael L. Bell, 1950 West Park Road in Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Mr. Talley?
Mr. Bell, what is your position with the district?
Chairman of the board.
And when were you first appointed as a commissioner to the district?
In the 80s, 86, I think. I don't know.
That's what my notes show.
Okay.
When does your current term expire?
Year and a half.
Have you served continuously since 1986?
Yes, sir.
Just tell us a little about your educational background and your.
I'm a graduate of Louisville Bible College.
And after you graduated from Louisville Bible College, how did you end up in Glendale?
I was in a ministry in Brownstown, Freetown, Indiana area, and in 1970, I was called by the church at Glendale to be the minister.
And how long did you serve as a minister at the Glendale Christian Church?
From 1970 into 2015, and from 2015 to present, I've been executive minister.
Are you mostly retired now?
No,
Okay, but you don't have to preach
but
every Sunday morning,
from
though.
getting paid, yes.
Have you been active in organizations in Hardin County that might benefit you in your role as a commissioner of the Water District?
I have served as a member of the Industrial Foundation of Hardin County, the Elizabethtown Hardin County Industrial Foundation, for 21 years, and at the end of my term this year, or 23, I was elected a emeritus member of the board, so I'm still active.
Do you still attend the board meetings?
I attend the board meetings, I just don't vote.
Now, I know you live in Glendale, correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you had an opportunity on your, either in your position as an emeritus member of the Industrial Foundation or otherwise, to have discussions with people, management, or anyone from Blue Oval SK about their wage and benefits that they are going to be planning to pay?
I was in Sean's office one day. I have been connected with BOSC since the Blue Oval SK from the very beginning through the Industrial Foundation, and then in some of the private meetings as the unofficial mayor of Glendale. I was courtesy invited to a lot of the planning meetings and things, so I've met a lot of the leadership. In fact, when they dedicated the plant, the president of SK thanked me, Judge Berry, and Mayor Gregory for our help in developing and welcoming them. So I feel I was involved and certainly surprised by that recognition. But Sean and I were talking as we were making preparations for our employees, which we do quite a bit. So I called a supervisor at Ford, and I asked them what was the benefits for SK. He told us in that conversation that the salary for the regular starters and then he said that the hospitalization was 100%.
When you said hospitalization, do you mean health insurance?
Health insurance,
For the
yes.
employees?
Benefits, yes.
Did you understand that to be 100% for individual or 100% for family or both?
Both
Did you prepare any written testimony in this case?
assisted.
Yeah, but you didn't have any where you were the sole
No,
person on
no.
Okay. I believe you were the responsible witness for maybe one of the data responses. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If I were to ask you that same question today, would your answer be the same as in your response to the data request?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to add about the labor market in Hardin County to what Sean Yurovich has talked about so far?
We, through the Industrial Foundation, certainly we get a lot of data, but I'm in connection with a lot of different businesses, and one of my friends owns a heating and plumbing business, and they're losing. It's not only Bosch hiring, it's the contractors that are out there. And they're paying and getting a lot of people coming in. So yes, the market in Hardin County is booming. But it's a lot of competition, a lot of competition.
Do you believe that the health insurance benefits being paid by the district are reasonable?
Yes, sir.
Are you generally aware of the Bureau of Labor Statistics national average of private employers' contributions to the cost of the health insurance for its employees?
Yes, sir.
And you heard the testimony of Sean Yurovich earlier, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree or disagree? Well, how would you characterize whether that is reasonable or not reasonable for the
Mr.
district?
Kelly, I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask you to move on. I don't know
Oh.
that's particularly relevant whether other individuals that have voted for these things believe things are reasonable or not reasonable. I don't know that that's particularly helpful for our determination in these cases. If the answer is unreasonable, that's the one I want to know. Because if he voted for it, he thinks it's unreasonable, that's interesting. But I think the presumption is that since the district's offering it, the presumption is they believe it's reasonable.
Okay, do you have an opinion on whether the benchmark of an employer paying 78% of the single health insurance and a family of 67%, do you think that's reasonable or unreasonable for the district?
For Hardin County, it's unreasonable at the present time.
That's all I have. The witness is now available for cross-examination.
And before we go to staff, how long has Hardin County number 2 been paying 100% or 95+%?
After about 5-6 years ago, you had a decision on a utility that my understanding was that the company should, or the employee should be responsible for porch. And we went to self-insurance, and we felt that that offset part of their part of the insurance. So we paid 100% until the last 5 to 10 years. I can't remember.
And even now, it's about 95%.
Yes, 95. I don't know what percentage, but
Okay.
we don't demand a lot of our employees for
Yeah, and
insurance.
so that's what I want to be clear about. Are any of these decisions that you all have made based on employee or employer contribution to healthcare based off of Blue Oval, the policies you put in place? Or did they exist prior to Blue Oval?
They existed prior to Blue Oval.
That's helpful. Thank you. Counsel?
Good morning, Mr. Bell. Same thing I've told the other witnesses. Let me
Yes,
know
I
if
can
you can
hear
hear me. Good. Firstly, I know you've been present, so you've heard the discussion already with Mr. Yurovich about the proposal for increased wages that's a part of this application. Sounds like you've been a very long-standing commissioner at the district. So I'd like to hear from you as during your commission meetings, your board meetings, the annual increases that are presented by the general manager. Can you tell us a little bit about how the discussion occurs with the board? Are calculations, studies provided to the board to help determine whether those salary increases are reasonable or feasible for the district to pay?
We take a poll, unofficial, of utilities our size from Kentucky Rural Water. Then we also do locally, Nolin, RECC is located right next to us. We have a great relationship with District 1 in the water business. And we check several different businesses and get their salaries and increases. That's why we did the benchmark, because we fell behind on the base salaries. And so we check those, we check the cost of living from the Social Security, and that's how it's presented. The board discusses. Then the merit raise, we encourage the supervisors, and we check their numbers sometimes, but we encourage the supervisors that we give a maximum of 3% or 5% as a range, but only those few employees that are super get the 5%, and it may go down to 3, 2, 1, or none, depending on the merit of the individual. So we scrutinize that part better than anything.
So you just stated that when the board is considering these salary increases, you poll from the Kentucky Rural Water Association's database, and then you look at, sounds like some of the regional utilities, correct?
Yes.
Other than the informal wage study that we've previously discussed that was prepared in preparation for this rate case, was there ever any other studies you recall being formulated for the board to determine the reasonability of these salary increases? Basically, was any other study ever performed by the district to your knowledge as far as
The
wage?
previous general manager did, but I don't think he hired someone. I think it was his own work. But no, I can't think of one.
Okay. And as far as these discussions amongst the board, when you go into your board meetings, are there often packets of information that are prepared?
Yes, ma'am.
for you? Was that information regarding wages of those regional comparisons of utilities prepared for the board?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. As a post-hearing data request, I would ask, we've already asked for the minutes from 2023, but I would also ask for any packets prepared in preparation for the board meetings for the past 3 years to be provided. Thank you. From the district's responses to discovery in this case, particularly response to staff's first request, attachment 1H, it appears that Hardin District Number 2's commissioners receive health, dental, vision, term life insurance, as well as a retirement plan through the county employees retirement system, all from the district, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is it your understanding that the district is planning on recovering the cost of its commissioners' benefits in this rate case?
Yes, ma'am.
Also looking at Exhibit 1H to the district's response to Commission staff's first request, there are tables that show the salaries of the district's commissioners.
Yes, ma'am?
Now, from years 2018 to 2022, it shows a yearly salary of $6,199.92 for Mr. Morris Miller. Do you see
He
that?
was treasurer.
Okay, the treasurer. Can you explain why Mr. Miller's salary is above the $6,000 as allowed by statute?
My understanding statute says that the treasurer can receive compensation above the regular 6,000. There's an additional,
Mr. Chairman, staff have no further questions at this time.
Oh, just one question. Do you have any recollection of where the $4 million loss would have, an event or something that happened?
I think I think Mandy will be answering that later on in her testimony, but every year they take the stated value of the investment. And so each year the investment goes up. And so that one year the investment took a tumble and we decided that we wanted to get out of that. So the original investment was 100, I don't know the amount, I can't recall the amount, but the original investment was $1 million. That $1 million escalated up to $4 million in book value. And so when we sold it, we got $2 million, so that was a $2 million loss. And so it shows a loss when it's actually, we made $1 million off of it. But that's, the numbers I do not know, but I think that is exactly what happened.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So on that, so you're saying that you're understanding any given year, and I'll ask, witness Isham
Yeah,
Yes.
Isham, mainly Isham.
more, but you're understanding, having been on with the water district for quite a while, that every year you all book to market all of your investments?
Yes,
Okay. And so if a stock goes up from $100 to $200, you all book that as a $100 gain on your,
on the report, yes. The value of the stock that was $1 million now is $1.4 million. So if it increased that amount I'm struggling enough. May I back up a second and give you some further information?
yeah, I've got a lot of questions about this, so please.
Okay, good.
Some further
We
context would be
had,
helpful.
we had a member of our board, Morris Miller, and Morris Miller was an investment counselor. And he had an investment company in Philadelphia, I think it was, and he moved back to Elizabethtown, his home, and he became a member of our board. And he suggested that we had some money that we could invest. And he gave us some money that was capitalized so that it wasn't a risk for the original amount. So we invested. He is no longer on the board. Now we go with CDs that are capitalized because we don't have the knowledge that he had, nor we just don't have the access to the knowledge that he had that we trust.
How much money did you all pull out if the loss on it, the book to market loss in that year was over $2 million?
We were saving money for a new building, and we were holding that so that we would not have a major cost of a new building. We sold our old building for $3 million something, And I think, I don't know where it all came from. You'll have to ask Mandy those questions. But I know we were saving money for future expansions, plus we had some water towers that we were going to have to add, and all this was before Blue Oval.
Okay, and so the idea was, you've been saving this money for years in an investment. It was, did you all decide to pull it out because of the market change, or because you needed
Because
to
of the
use
market
money?
change and because of Mo's, Mo became ill with Alzheimer's. And he stepped down from the board because of that. And so that was a contributor to it.
Okay, so did you all use that money for the investments, or did y'all put that money into CDs?
We put some in CD and some in our building.
Okay. Again, I just ask it, do you know approximately how much it was that you all pulled out to have taken?
No,
To your,
no.
to your testimony, you still feel like you made lots of money while it was in there, but it
Yes.
was a $2.3 million loss, so it has to be more than, it had to be more than $2.3 million, right?
You'll have to ask Mandy.
You
I,
don't remember it was
No,
more than 2.3?
I'm a has-been preacher, and all I know is 10%. I'm not real good at remembering numbers, honestly, sir.
Okay.
I know at the time I would have asked questions, but not now.
Just curious about, from the board perspective, this Hardin County number 1 situation. Were you aware that Hardin County number 2 was selling water to Hardin County number 1?
Yes, sir.
Were you aware that presumably there was never a rate established to sell them? Has that ever been, I mean, I'm trying to ask you this way. Has it come up in board meetings that there's not a established rate to sell water to Hardin County number 1?
We, when this study came up for meeting with you, that became aware.
Okay,
And I was made aware of it through the study and through the conversations. And we went back in the minutes and we found out that a previous general manager brought the topic up at a board meeting. And at that meeting, he stated that $2.20 was the amount that it should be, as the records show. And we were not ready to take action, so we took no action. And we were going to take it under study and look, because it looked too low to us, to be honest. And then in this preparation, we found out the next day, after that meeting, he sent, I think, he sent a letter to District 1 telling them the rate was established at $2.20.
but you all never undertook any additional
We
efforts,
never,
those studies?
we never.
Do you all, this is your all's first general rate adjustment
Yes,
that
sir.
I'm aware of. But it's not like you all have not done things at the PSC over
No,
the years,
we've-
right? Purchase water adjustments.
Right,
and
right.
Wholesale water.
Right.
You've got, I was going through, I mean, maybe once a year, once every other year, a canceled tariff page. So
Yeah.
fairly, how do you all, let's just think of something routine. Good example of tap-on fees. You know what I mean by tap-on fees?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tap-on fees, general manager says, boy, we're taking it on the chin on tap-on fees. It's costing us $2,000, $1,200. We're only charging $600. We need to look at, getting a good rate and then taking it to the PSC, getting it approved. Is that
Right.
okay? So that's the fictional hypothetical scenario. Does the general manager historically over the time you've been there, do they bring that to your attention? Do you all direct them to prepare the stuff and file with the PSC?
Yes.
Do you all take a vote on it? Do you all hear back after it's approved or disapproved by the PSC? Do you all expect the manager to give you an order? Or tell you, give you a report? I'm just curious about how you all direct and find out about regulatory issues over the time that you've been there, which I assume is a number of managers at this point.
The manager brings the material to us. We take it under advisement. He does the presentation and justification for it. We normally, we don't vote on it. We listen to him, then we go out and do some investigation, comparing others. Then we go back and we vote on it, or it's presented informally, and then we study it. But we usually have a month to two before we vote on it.
Okay.
And then we get all the calls on the phone from all the developers that I'm going out of business and all this because of it. And then we vote on it. And then we expect him to file it with public service. And we expect to hear that it has been approved, accepted, denied, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of the things that's come up is I've heard a lot of board chairs. We have lots of hearings here. Not near as many as we used to. Way more than we used to. It varies by a given year. You can imagine. And one of the things I hear are chairs or commissioners say, "This is our expectation of the manager." And my follow-up question to that always is, has that been orally conveyed, or is that conveyed in writing as an expectation of the manager that when you get an order from the public, for example, you get an order from the Public Service Commission, we expect you to present it to us, or we expect you to give us a copy of it at the next meeting? Do you know whether historically that's been orally conveyed to the manager as an expectation, or it has a written policy where that's the expectation of the manager?
I don't think it's a written policy,
Okay.
but it has been orally. And normally it has happened. Normally we have received information. Usually the general manager emails us, or at least myself, the information back from you all.
Okay. And then Mr. Yurovich was talking, had a response to a staff question indicating that it's the likelihood expectation. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I understood his response to say that there may be an expectation that Hardin County number 2 may be filing another rate case in like a periodic rate case. Maybe it may not be another 40 years before it may be
Yeah.
something closer to 2 is I think what the response indicated. Is that a surprise to you? Is that a plan? Is that a discussion that's going on? And I'm just curious what the basis of that is. Are things materially different? It sounds like they are, but materially different from the last 30, 40 years of operation versus what you all expect going forward in the next few years?
Well, in the last several years, our district has taken a different approach. We've been a rural district for a lot of years. But when we acquired Elizabethtown, we have changed a lot of that and focused into the community, not ignoring the rural development too. But one of the things is that so many unknowns are there for us. How many more water towers we're going to need for storage? My understanding, there's 4,000 apartments being built in Elizabethtown right now. We've sold more 3-inch meters in the last year than in the last decade for these apartments. So we've made the arrangements with Louisville Water to get the source. The pumps we're going to need to get the water here. So we're planning that we're going to have to grow with the district. And as the community grows, we don't know when the next rate increase is going to be. And we know it's going to be sooner than longer. So we're just making that preparation.
And what I want to ask about is maybe the prerequisite for filing a rate case, which is identifying whether rates need to be changed.
Yes.
Right, that's an internal review that occurs before you all ever show up here.
Right.
Do you all do that on an annual basis? Do you all sit down in January, February, looking at the previous year's, net income or whatever it may be, whatever metrics you all look at and go, we need to do something, we're fine, we don't expect our expenses or revenues to change in the next year, and last year is fine, we're good to go. Do you all have a formal or informal process where you all look at whether a rate adjustment is necessary?
We have 5 alpha males that are commissioners, and every year they're going over the budget and the review, the annual audit, and they're looking for all the things that you were talking about. Plus, we get a chart of development for years down the road of new trucks and new expectations and new areas of service, plus the replacement of lines and trying to keep up with those. So yes, we do an annual review and an annual projection.
And let me just, real quick, so I have an appreciation for this. This was a case, try to have appreciation for it. Was this a case that was prodded or required by the commission, or something that you all initiated on your own?
The rate study?
No, just this case. This
No,
case.
we decided ourselves this is the way we come. I should say I know of no prodding from the commission.
And Mr. Chairman, he is correct that there has not been any order for the district to file a rate study or a rate case.
Well, and the reason I ask is we have some orders that require, obligate within the 6 months, year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. We have some that say, you guys should really, you all should take a real close look and consider something in the next 5 years. I just didn't know if you were aware of any of those.
Not to my knowledge, sir.
All right. Mr. Talley?
No redirect.
All right, thank you very much. All right, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
I do.
All right, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tim Davis. My address is 1951 Westport Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky, 42701.
Mr. Talley?
Mr. Davis, what's your position with the district?
I'm a commissioner.
How long have you been a commissioner?
My term started in July 1st of 2009, terminate June 30th of 2025.
And have you been a commissioner continuously since 2009?
Yes.
Tell us briefly, I know you filed written testimony, but your business background.
For 38 years, I ran a third-party administration company. I owned an insurance company, had a network. Also, I'm a licensed realtor and a licensed third-party administrator.
And are you retired from that?
Yes, yes,
Did you file written testimony in this case?
I did.
Do you have any changes or additions to your written testimony?
No,
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same as in your written testimony?
yes.
I could not find any data response where you were the responsible witness. Do you recall being the responsible witness for any data requests that the district filed?
No.
Okay. The chairman, or one of the commissioners, asked a few minutes ago about the district's plans to prepare a rate case in the future. Can you just generally talk about what you know about why this case was filed and about plans for future rate cases?
Well, it has been a long time since we've had a rate case or filed for a rate case, and I think this is our first time here. And it's obviously the area that we're in right now is growing tremendously. the competition with the distilleries that are going up in Elizabethtown, the demand for water. We really have a significant amount of outlay coming in the future. And that's, again, one of the reasons we decided as a board, it's time to sit down and look at getting a rate increase going and to review it periodically so that we don't get behind the 8 ball in this development. There's millions of dollars we're going to have to spend in the next 5 years.
And do you recall the district staff keeping the board updated about where you stand, about cash flow and so forth?
Absolutely.
Do the commissioners get an income statement each month?
Yes,
Do you get a balance sheet each month?
yes.
That's all the questions I have.
Good morning, Mr. Davis. Firstly, can you briefly describe for us how the district's health insurance program is different than a standard health insurance program, or how the district is, quote, partially self-funded?
We had, when I started in the district in 2009, that's obviously where my expertise lies. Our commissioners are very departmentalized when it comes to expertise. I noticed that our plan was fully insured, and I noticed the trending on the health plan was going up exponentially, more than it should. Obviously, a fully insured carrier has to make profit for their stockholders. Well, my background is in self-funding. I've done a lot of self-funding in 23 states. I've done a lot of benefits consulting with folks. So in 2017, the fully insured side of the program was getting out of hand. It wasn't affordable anymore. So I had an analysis done on the health plan, and we went to the reinsurance industry to see what kind of reinsurance could be obtained. We use a local agent to do this. And so when those analyses come back, it was several $100,000s of savings to move into a partially self-funded environment.
When you were looking at this, first off, how far back was it that the district switched to this partially self-insured?
2017.
I'm sorry,
2017.
2017. Thank you. And are you aware of whether or not, or did you study any other utilities that are under a similarly structured insurance
I
program?
was familiar with the RECC utility at West, the East Kentucky Power. I did work for them before, so I've had some experience with utilities. I had experience with District 1, so I had some personal experience with these different utilities.
To your knowledge, any of the regional utilities in your area have anything similar as far as a program?
Absolutely. The city of E-Town's that way. Nolan RECC is a self-funded program. The majority of the larger employers are.
Okay. Thank you. In your testimony, you stated that the district is responsible for paying the first $35,000 per year in medical bills incurred by an employee. Does that amount, that $35,000, include family members or just the employee?
It's the family members as well.
It is, okay.
That is the specific reinsurance amount.
Okay. And speaking of the reinsurance, in your testimony, you've described or pointed to the aggregate stop-loss reinsurance.
Correct.
Can you explain to us what that policy covers or what it's meant to protect against?
Sure. That is actually the reinsurance that determines whether going partially self-funded is viable or not. The specific reinsurance is the umbrella that covers each employee. The aggregate covers the entire group. That aggregate attachment point has to be less than what a fully insured plan would sell for in order for a partially self-funded to work. The goal in this partially self-funded is to get a handle on the trending. Medical trending was going up at the time 13–14%. We're able to keep our medical trending 5% and under. And that's really important to the success of this plan.
Okay, and the amount of that aggregate stop-loss reinsurance that we're talking about was provided in the application, it was a PDF, page 154, and it was discussed on page 4 of your testimony, but looking at that PDF, and let me know, we have paper copies if
You
that
said
is.
page 4 of his study, of his written testimony?
Yes, but the actual table that has the amount, if he needs to refer to it, is on page 154, the application.
Just give us just a moment.
Sure.
154, the application is page 4 of his
Sorry.
testimony.
Is it a separate exhibit? Oh, my apologies. This is actually the rate study. Yes. File. Is it page 154? And it's an Excel file that is provided along with that. It's Exhibit 32, rate study adjustments in response to request, Commission staff's request 1-32. If I can get it pulled. Let me know if you're unable to find that. I have a,
Let me see what that looks like.
sure.
We've got it pulled up,
She's got it pulled up, I'm sorry.
but where specifically?
Where specifically?
The first tab, at the bottom where it says benefit adjust 1,
You just passed it.
And I'm assuming this is part of the cost of service study and the rate study that Mr. Williams did.
yes, it is. So we're asking about cells 26 and 27. It's under the table evaluation of 2023 benefits. If you go down under the health insurance portion, it's the second one, expected fund, or sorry, stop loss per employee per month.
And this is in the first tab?
Yes, the benefit adjust 1 tab. Technically, I guess it's the second tab. It's not the salary adjust. It's the benefit adjust 1 tab. Were you able to find it?
Inside the tabs.
Apparently not. Do you have a hard copy that we
We
could
do.
show the witness? I'm sorry? Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, it's a different spreadsheet, apparently.
I'm sorry for my.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you all want a copy?
We have three exhibit 32 spreadsheets.
So under evaluation of 2023 benefits, that table there under health insurance,
Yes.
the first item is stop loss per employee per month, correct?
Correct.
Can you just describe for us how that was calculated, how you arrived at that number per employee?
The expected funding or the stop loss?
The stop loss, I'm sorry.
Stop
the-
loss is a fixed number by the reinsurer. That's the amount that's purchased from the reinsurance company.
Can I just ask counsel before we move on, is the highlighting on this document Urals or native to the document?
It is. We can get a clean copy.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that highlighting usually indicates confidential information.
Okay, so the same question for the expected funding, which is highlighted there, per employee per month, was that also a fixed number, or how is that
No,
calculated?
no, that is an actuarial study that's done. The actuaries determined that number.
Are you all provided with a copy of that study?
Yes.
As opposed to hearing data request, if you could provide the copy of the actuarial study that was performed to reach the expected funding factor per employee per month.
Okay.
Mr. Davis, do you know what she's talking
I
about?
do.
Okay, we'll be happy to furnish it then.
We may have to dig a little because it's a couple years ago.
So as part of the district's health insurance program, there's also a wellness plan. Could you explain for us a little bit about its purpose and how its credits are awarded?
The wellness program is designed, again, our overall objective with the health plan is trending. We want to keep trend down. We want to keep our people healthy. We want claims to go down. We don't want the opposite to happen. So the wellness program is designed that there are certain criteria that have to be met. We want to do cholesterol. We'll do a CBC study on them. We'll do different testings. They'll do a BMI. There's a lot of different factors, the blood pressure, things that we will do. And if these employees pass this, and we highly encourage them to be involved in this, they get a carrot, a little discount off of their premium. To encourage them to have these studies done, because we know, actually know where our problem areas are on the health plan, and we want to specifically focus on those.
Okay. So you just mentioned if an employee participates, perhaps one way that credit is provided is in a discount from the premium. Are there any other types of credits that are awarded?
No,
No? Okay. And are those credits different for each individual employee? Is it based off of their level of participation, or how is that awarded?
it's based upon how they do in the test itself. So when we go and have the testing done, if you meet 3 out of the 5 criteria, you get a credit for that. The goal is to move people toward compliance and being healthy.
And it's my understanding from your testimony that the plan is voluntary, correct?
Correct.
How many employees are participating?
I would think upwards of 80%, maybe more. Probably more.
As far as the benefits offered to the commissioners versus the employees, are the commissioners offered all of the same health insurance, vision, dental, term life, and retirement plan options as the employees?
All those you just mentioned, yes.
Okay. Are you able to provide the actual percentage of employees' total health insurance coverage that's paid by the district?
The actual number, it's going to be 95% probably
Okay.
that we pay for our employees. It may vary a percent one way or the other.
And just to clarify, does each employee or commissioner have a different premium based on different factors or the different plans that they choose?
No,
They all have the same premium.
correct.
So there's been a lot of discussion today about the new factory moving into the
Yes.
service territory
Yes.
of the district. And there's been a lot of discussion about, benefits that may be awarded to employees of that new business. Based on that information that the district has discussed with us today, has there been discussion or any determination by the district or any plans to pay 100% of the district's benefits?
No.
No, okay. Okay. And speaking of benefits to commissioners, just a follow-up post-hearing data request that I should have asked Mr. Bell. In Exhibit 1H to the district's response to commission staff's first request, it's 1-H. We just need a supplemental update to provide 2023 salary and benefits amounts for the commissioners. We have no further questions at this time.
Question?
Just quick one. I'm looking at the testimony, line, on page 5, line 19 and 20. And it says the reinsurance company could place a laser or larger specific amount on these individuals. Is that the same thing as a cap?
No, it's a specific amount of money. If, for example, if we know that there's an employee that has a higher number than the normal stop loss, that can be imposed, a laser can be imposed on that, and then anything above that laser will be reimbursed to the district.
But it doesn't change the cost of their premium, correct?
No, it does not.
Okay, thank you.
It's what happens in the background of the plan. It's background, actuarial stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tyler?
No further questions.
Thank you very much. Judge Carter, next witness.
Mandy Isham.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under penalty of perjury?
Yes, sir.
All right. Please state your name and business address for the record.
Mandy Isham, 1951 West Park Road, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Mr. Tyler?
May I call you Mandy?
Yes.
How long what is your job title
Finance manager.
for the Water District?
Yes.
How long have you been finance manager?
I've been finance manager since the summer of 2022.
How long have you worked at the district?
I started at the district in the fall of 2016.
What are your duties and responsibilities in your current position?
I oversee the work of our 2 bookkeepers and assist them. I assist in the month-end closing process and prepare the monthly financial reports. I maintain the general ledger, and I assist in the annual budget process and our annual audit.
Do you prepare any written financial statements for the district board of commissioners for each board meeting?
Each board meeting, they are provided with an income statement, the balance sheet, and a current asset report.
I forgot to ask your educational background.
I have a bachelor's degree in accounting from Western Kentucky University. I graduated spring of 2016.
And have you become a certified public accountant since you've been at the district?
I have.
Did you prepare any written testimony in this case?
No.
I know that you were the responsible witness for several of the data responses filed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or additions to your answers to the responses to the data request?
No.
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same as in the written responses?
Yes.
There's been some discussion about the large loss that the district had in 2022, apparently because of some investments or whatever. Are you aware of whether there's any accounting requirements for the district to state the current market value of an asset each year, even though you don't sell it?
Yes, GASB states that you have to recognize investments at their fair value.
Now, what's GASB?
That's the generally, or the governmental accounting standards.
So, say that again slowly for me.
So your investments have to be recognized at fair value.
Now, are they recognized, even if you don't have any intention of selling them, you have to recognize at fair market value?
That's right. That would be recognized as non-operating income.
You read my mind. So does that show up on the income statement?
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you aware of this substantial loss that district showed on its income statement in 2022?
Yes.
Do you have, I know it's not fair because you weren't expecting this question, but can you explain that the best you can?
Yeah, so we invested a sizable amount of money many years ago before I started at the district. So each year those investments grew, and as we recognized those at fair value, we recognized income, non-operating income on the income statement. In 22, when the market tanked, the value of those investments fell considerably. We decided to pull those investments to cash, and then they were reinvested. And when we did that, to recognize them, you had to realize the loss that those investments recognized that year.
Now, did you have an occasion at that time to go back and look and see whether, from the time the district purchased those investments until it sold them, whether overall it had a gain or a loss?
Overall, there was a gain.
That's all the questions I have. The witness is available for cross-examination.
Any questions?
Just a few questions for you, Ms. Isham. Firstly, looking at the schedule of adjusted operations, it was provided as Exhibit 8 to the application. Let me know when you have that up.
Got it?
Could you explain which account you record the capitalized tap fee labor?
The tap fee labor.
Yes.
So I believe all of our labor is just recognized in the salaries and wages.
In the salaries and wages, okay. Are you aware as to whether or not the tap fee labor was removed from the wage adjustment?
I do not believe it was.
I'm sorry,
I do not believe it was.
you don't believe it was, okay. 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 Since that is the case, as a post-hearing data request, I would ask the district to provide the capitalization rate of the tap fee labor for the past 5 years.
Last 5 years?
Yes. And Ms. Isham, to your knowledge, the wages that are included in the submitted rate study adjustments, are those the current wages being paid by the district?
The pro forma amount,
Yes.
as far as I know,
Are they already being paid by the district? I just want to confirm that.
yes.
Okay. No further questions for Ms. Isham, Chairman.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. I have one more minute to say good morning. Just so that I'm clear, to make things simpler for the question I'm gonna ask you, let's just assume that the district sold the other security, the other investment on December the 31st in 2022.
Okay.
Okay, let's just assume that for a second. For the way you all have been accounting for the mark-to-market any given year, is there any distinction between having sold that or not having sold it if you had sold it on December the 31st?
I'm not certain. I'm not certain.
Do you understand the question?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So you mark to market. You sold, I assume you sold at market, right? Is that accurate? So if you, at the end of the year, if your account was at a, you know, $2.3 million, we'll just call it 2.3. $2.3 million reduction from the value that you had on it last year, and you didn't sell anything, then that under account 419, interest and dividend income would have a negative $2.3 million amount, right? Just forget selling. Is that how you all account for it?
Honestly, I would have to double check.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is, does the fact that you sold it necessarily change that you all, I mean, had the day you sold it, had that been the market price that you would have used to market, is it necessarily accounted for any differently, whether you sold it or held on to it? The fact that it was a loss compared to your previous mark,
Right.
is that the reflection in the negative number for interest and dividend income?
I believe it would have been the same regardless. One was just a realized loss and one would have been unrealized because you're still going to be recognizing it at the fair value.
Okay. That brings up the other question I have, the bigger question I have. Why is the mark to market for the underlying security or the underlying principal, why is that determined to be, for instance, well, let me take a step back. Are gains and losses, realized or unrealized gains and losses from property, is that for accounting purposes exclusively real property?
I don't believe so.
Why wouldn't security mark to market gains or unrealized gains or losses not be booked to an account specific to that? Unrealized gains or losses from property. Or unrealized gains and losses from property.
I'm not certain.
Okay. What I'm trying to have an appreciation for is, I understand any given year you have something invested, and the income from that, or the income from that, or the dividends that it pays, would be in this account, the interest and dividend income.
Right.
I'm trying to have an appreciation for why changes in the value or changes in the amount of the underlying principal would also come through that account, as opposed to another account such as cash or cash equivalents.
Well, I mean, when it's an unrealized gain or loss, there's really no cash that's gone in or out, so you wouldn't recognize that as a cash gain or loss.
Okay. So that brings me to the other big question I have. There's about a $4 million, you heard my questions earlier, there's about a $3.9 million swing in net income between 2021 and 2022. When it's accounted for this way, that is reflected in net income, right? Sorry, you
Yes.
have it.
Yes, that's right. I'm
Just
sorry.
The camera, it's all right. It's got to pick up the. But if it's unrealized in any given year and it's accounted for in that account, that's because it's in that account, it's showing up as net income, even though there's not a cash gain or loss, right?
Right.
But if it was in the unrealized account, it would show up in the net income calculation, but not the cash basis calculation, right?
Right.
So in any given year, if that account, interest and dividend income, if it was going up, and would that going up, that increase in that amount or that positive in that amount reflect the mark to market of that account in any given year?
A portion of that would be the unrealized gains, yes.
But that shows up on when I have your audited amounts here, because it's in that account, that unrealized gain is showing up on both a cash basis income and net income.
On the schedule of adjusted operations, I believe that value reflects only interest and dividend income. There was no unrealized gain as a part of that.
Okay. Your all's annual report filed with us. Do you know whether that's the case?
So in the annual report, it's the negative 2 million and change. That would have been the realized loss
Okay.
and interest and dividend income. If there was any gain, it would also be reflected in that.
Yeah, what I'm trying to find out is it showing up in this account on your annual report because it was sold, or would it also have showed up as that negative number had the loss been unrealized?
I believe either way, it would have shown up on that same account. The same line item of the annual report.
But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, then if it was unrealized in that account, if you all just lost the money and not pulled it out, you all would still be coming in here showing a 2022 cash basis negative net income of $2.348 million, but 2 point whatever of that is unrealized. So it's not actually a cash loss, right?
Right, not a cash loss.
There's another like $1 million+ difference, like leftover, we'll say. The difference between 21 and 2022. The income, the revenues are up like $1.2 million. This is the big expense item. What else happened between 21 and 22 to have such a big net income swing?
The only big change, I think Sean mentioned, we had the addition of our customer service center. That depreciation expense did hit in 2022.
Okay.
Aside from that, I don't know of any write-off.
Okay. So I've got a decrease in 21 to 22 for depreciation expense from 3.3 million to 3.211, but I guess 2022 wouldn't have a full year's depreciation for that, or it would have a full year's depreciation for that?
I don't believe it was a full year.
Okay. Did you all make an adjustment in 23 for depreciation expense for any capital additions in 22 and 23? Or I guess capital additions in, did you annualize the depreciation expense in 22, or change the depreciation expense in 22 to ensure that a full year of that new depreciation expense is included?
I'm sorry, for which year?
2022. So 2022 is the test year.
Right.
Only portion of the year had this brand new big capital project. Did you change the depreciation expense to include a full year's depreciation expense for that large capital addition?
Vaughn may have done that in his schedule. I'm not certain.
And then, so the money that was pulled out of that account, approximately what size was that principal when it was pulled out? Just like magnitude, 2 million, 5 million, 20 million, I'm just curious.
Around 20 million was the original investment.
Okay.
So it was around 17, between 15 and 20, I would say. I would have to look at the exact.
You say the
that's
original investment, you mean what it was marked to market before the loss?
That would have been incorrect, what I said.
Okay,
Between 15 and 20 million, I believe, was the value when it was pulled out of investments.
okay. I guess what I'm trying to, it was closer, it was $2.3 million higher for book purposes the year before when it was marked to market?
Right.
Okay. And was all of that put into how much of that was put into other investments, approximately? Half of it, a quarter of it?
I believe we used a portion of it to fund our new customer service center. Currently, we have about $12.5 million invested.
Okay, and they're in CDs?
CDs, we have just over $1 million in T-bills. Those will mature at the end of this month, actually, and we'll
Okay.
have everything invested in CDs.
Do you all, for things like treasuries, that when market interest rates change, the underlying value, like the coupon stays the same, but the underlying value of it may change on like the secondary market, do you all mark to market those treasuries?
Yes,
Okay. And so the change in the market value of those investments would be reflected in that same interest and dividend income?
yes,
Okay. And in the same account, you're taking the coupon payment and the difference in the value of the underlying security mark to market in the same account, but they're put in what, a sub account differently so that one shows up on a cash basis income and the other one doesn't? All right, let me ask you this question. If the value of an underlying treasury goes up, the market value goes up $50 in a year, and the coupon payment in that year is $50, that's a $100 increase total related to that investment, right?
okay,
But only 50 of that is cash you're going to get on hand, and the other 50 is an unrealized, increase in the, it's not even realized, but an increase in the underlying value. You account for both of those at $100, right?
okay.
I mean, I'm asking, do you account for those equally?
I would have to go and look at the adjustment.
Okay. That's what I want to ask, for the underlying, if you're marking those underlying assets, are they showing up the same? You're gonna get you get in hand the $50 cash coupon payment, but you don't get the $50 in hand for the increase in the value of the underlying treasury, correct?
Right.
Okay, and you can reinvest or do something else with that other $50, but my question is, they show up on your income statement the same. Do they show up on a cash basis income the same?
Okay.
So we'll ask that as a posterior data request. And just I think it's an obvious question. Do you all anticipate a $2.3 million loss in any given year going forward from change
we
in
do
value
not.
of investments?
No, we do not.
Okay. And the way you've invested it would ensure that that's not necessarily the case, right?
Correct.
Okay. You have the 2023 like preliminary numbers. Even without this rate change in 2023, do you know if your net income is positive or negative?
Unaudited, it is positive.
And that's both that's rate-based net income and on a cash basis?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, like including and not including depreciation, it's both positive?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Mr. Shalley?
I'd like the witness to go to Sean Williams's, Vaughn Williams's written testimony to the, his rate study, the schedule of adjusted operations. Mandy, does staff have, okay. Did you work with Vaughn when he was doing the rate study about helping him put together this schedule of adjusted operations with respect to some of the investments and interest income?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the first page there of the statement of adjusted operations in front of you?
Yes.
Look down near the bottom, under the revenue requirements, and then under total revenue requirement is like, and I'm looking in the left-hand column here, test year 2022. You see total revenue requirement of $16,792,735.
Yes.
Correct? Then you see less other things. And then it shows, do you see the non-utility income of $204,947?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the interest income, is there an adjustment? On the interest income, it's blank.
Correct.
Now, would you And then I see there's an adjustment of 292,443, correct?
Yes.
And then there's a reference of I. Could you go to the next page and read I?
I says that the 2022 annual report to the PSC reported an interest and dividend income loss of $2,327,904 when the Water District cashed out the investment accounts. The interest and dividend income realized on the accounts that were kept was $292,443.
So, do you understand this statement of adjustment operations well enough to know whether the district is trying to recover the $2.3 million loss, or was that just a wash?
It was just a wash.
So, in Vaughn's, when you were working with Vaughn, when he was doing this rate study, you just set that aside, that loss that the district had, and then you reduced the revenue requirements by the actual interest earnings that the district had earned in 2022. Is that correct?
Correct.
So is the district asking the commission to raise its rate so it can collect that 2.3 million loss?
No, it is not.
That's all the questions I have.
Right, so just to be clear now, because that. The remaining amount is the amount that you pulled out, let's just call it 15 million. We'll say it's 15 million. Then you reinvested some portion of that into something, you spent it on something else. The I don't have it on my number, 292,433 is all of the money you made in non-utility income other than related to that principal investment that was withdrawn. Is that right?
Right. The 292 was interest and dividends income.
Okay.
The total loss on the investments would have actually been 2.7 million, but we had the almost $300,000 in interest and dividends.
And then in 2023, that amount that you pulled out in 2022 was spent and reinvested, and it would have been reinvested in addition to the amount that was, I'm going to use the words here in I, kept. Is that accurate?
Right. So we cashed out the investments from their current place
Yep.
and then reinvested them into the T-bills and CDs.
I guess is the 292,443 representative of what you all expect to happen? It did happen in 2023 in terms of non-interest, non-utility income.
More accurate than the $2.3 million loss.
I think that is something that everyone in the room could probably agree on. Definitely more accurate than taking a $2.5 million loss. But I'm just, if you've reinvested that 15, 17, whatever the amount actually is, if you've reinvested a good portion of that, this is just the amount of income for the other stuff other than that amount. So that amount is now making you money in 2023, or
Yes.
did make you money in 2023 from that investment. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I believe the investments, of course, these are unaudited numbers, but
Yeah,
about
yeah.
$500,000 is what we are seeing in interest and dividend income for 2023.
So about twice the amount that you had here.
Yes.
So as a posting day request, we just ask for the amount of income from interest income in 2023. I'll just speak for myself. I don't think it's unreasonable to assume that you don't take another $2.7 million loss. I also question whether it's unreasonable to assume that that money also disappeared and will never be invested and isn't invested. And I understand. So, okay. All right, Mr. Talley, anything else on that issue?
1 moment, please. No.
Anything else, Ms. Fell?
Nothing further
All
from
right,
staff.
thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, Mr. Talley, it's my understanding the suspension is on April 1? Is that your understanding as well?
Yes.
All right. We'll have some post-hearing discovery. We can get that out, Ms. Bell, what, by Monday, Tuesday?
Yes, I think we do Monday.
Okay, so if we get it out by Monday, how much time would you all need to
Oh,
respond?
My apologies, that's
Monday's a
holiday.
holiday, Tuesday, that's fine.
Could we have 10 days?
That'd be fine. So we'll call it the 10th and the, hold on one second before I speak.
Be the
So we'll have the discovery, post-hearing procedural, we'll have the post-hearing procedural schedule sets forth, staff's post-hearing data request that will be due on the 16th. And then the response is due on the 26th, which is the following Friday. Would you all like to file a post-hearing brief in this matter?
Yes.
Okay. Trying to check holidays here for a second, Mr. Since your office is in Hodgenville, Mr. Talley, and February 12th is Lincoln's birthday, let's go with,
Thank you.
let's go with, how about the 13th for a post-hearing brief? Is that too soon? Do you need additional time?
That's roughly 2 weeks, isn't it? Yeah.
A little over 2 weeks, and that's, you guys will have the benefit of knowing the
Yep.
response to the post-hearing data request before we.
That's very doable.
Okay. Well, I'll just give it to the end of that week. There's no, the
Oh.
16th of February.
Thank you.
Okay. And then the case will be submitted, 12:01 on the 17th. Is there anything else, Ms. Fowler?
Nothing further from staff, Chairman.
And,
Mr. Talley?
yes, on our rate case expenses, we will be, normally we would be submitting a updated response by the end of January. I suppose we ought to just go ahead and do an estimate of what's going to be to close the case out.
Yeah, and if you'd like to, at the time you file your brief, file an update through the 16th, that would be.
That works perfect. So we'll probably do one for actual incurred through the end of January, and then when we file a brief on the 16th, we'll update that through the 16th.
That'd be fine.
Okay.
And maybe this is a question for you, and maybe this is a question for the utility. I think we probably will ask this in post-hearing data request, but it's still not clear to me, looking at the record, whether the $75,000 for the rate study includes or does not include the amount assumed for, is that synonymous with rate case expense?
The rate
So
case
if you
expense
will-
is substantially higher than that.
If you will, in your post-hearing brief, address the identification of and requested recovery of rate case expense, that would, I think, be appreciated and help clarify the utility's intent on that front.
And we plan to do that.
Is there anything else, council?
No,
All right, thank you very much. We are adjourned.
thank you.